Hey, it's Mazzy. It's the Music Stupid, number 62. When the teachers turned out the lights. Kind of psychedelic in a way. A little bit of psychedelia here. 1967 and 1968. Growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the San Francisco music scene, and the liberal school education I got had its advantages. And it's the Music Stupid where I grab 5 records. I put these together in somewhat of a theme. One is a new reissue I got based on an old album from 1968. So that gave me the idea to put these records together. Now, let me set the stage. I'm going to talk about 8th grade and 9th grade. For me, that would be, we're talking really about 1968. Some of these records came out the end of 67, but 1968 junior high school, 8th grade, and then the fall in high school, 9th grade in 1968. I had 2 teachers. One was my music teacher, Caroline Schwartz. I have no idea if she's still alive. She had this sort of Barbra Streisand look of the nose and the mini skirts, very mod. And she was the music teacher at that point. And I was in Glee Club. I can't believe I was in friggin' Glee Club. But I was also in the school orchestra and I was playing timpani. I was a drummer. My buddy Larry and I were both drummers. He was on the drum and the snare, and I was doing the timpani. Okay, but Glee Club. But we also had a little bit of a music appreciation. And the building in the junior high school, the music room, was a separate, round, freestanding building, like cement blocks or some kind of cement, as I recall. And no windows. And on Fridays every week, she would turn the lights down and play us music, play a record, an entire album for 40 minutes, 30, 25, 30, 40 minutes, whatever the album was. And there's 2 albums I'm going to showcase from that time that she played. Now, let's cut to where we are in 2024. Teachers would be fired for playing this record today. They're banning books they're banning Maya Angelou and Catcher in the Rye and oh god, all these great, wonderful written books are being banned in certain states and in certain school districts, and I can't imagine today this teacher not being fired, but it didn't destroy us. It didn't turn us on to the drug scene, as far as I know. At least not with me. But Caroline Schwartz would dim the lights. I think there was a little bit of I can't remember if there was a lava lamp or a black light. There was a little glow in the room, and she'd play a song. And I'm thinking early 1968, in maybe May, just before the end of the term, she played this record. Of course, the Andy Warhol cover, the Velvet Underground album, co-produced by Andy Warhol, yeah, sure. And Tom Wilson, a great producer, who worked with the Mothers and Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen at MGM here at this point. What a great album. Now, this is a 1970 or 71 copy I got. Perfect condition. I haven't peeled the banana off. But I did have an original copy, and I think what happened is eventually I don't remember. I bought another copy at some point. I don't know where that first one went, which is really rare for me. But can you imagine the song that I remember, the key song on this, that she played for us, 13, 14-year-olds in 1968 was Heroin. When I put that spike into my vein. Oh my God. Can you imagine kids running home and telling their parents that their teacher played a song called Heroin? Can you imagine that today? I can't imagine it today. What a great record, of course. Iconic record, not their greatest sounding record. You know, the whole concept or the whole idea or the thing is, people say, well, they only sold 6,000 copies of this initially, but everyone had a copy, so what that's about. One of the most influential records in rock and roll history, obviously. Lou Reed, John Cale, Sterling Morrison, Maureen Tucker, and Nico, of course. But my copy, I never peeled it. But I just think Caroline Schwartz played this and it was like, wow. And I soon after that went out and bought this record. What a great record. You all know it. If you don't know it, you should have it in your collection. One of those iconic records. But can you imagine being 14 years old and your music teacher playing that record with the lights out? Oh, woo, woo, woo. Okay. Another record that came out, I guess, in 67, and I remember her playing, again, another Friday, Lights Out. And I was all over this record, and I still love this record today. Jock Holtzman, the president, the founder of Elektra Records. It was a folk record, and then, of course, they signed and had a hit in 1967 with the Doors' debut. But Jock Holtzman had this idea of doing this kind of modernist electronic record because the Moog synthesizer was just coming out. So he pulled some people together, and the writer is Mort Garson, who is, by the way, is a Cancer, the sign, the sun sign, and to write this music and use the Moog synthesizer brings in Paul Beaver, who would later form, or soon after this, Beaver and Krause, who was one of the West Coast sales reps for the Moog synthesizer. And they had a booth at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. But they pulled together this amazing record, spoken word by Cyrus Farian, probably not pronouncing that right, but who cares? And that is the Zodiac Cosmic Sounds. I friggin' fell in love with this record. She played the entire record. Caroline Schwartz played this entire record. It swirls. Now, I remember this because my first Doors album, I was given for my bar mitzvah in 1967, the first Doors album. It was a mono cover, but had a stereo sticker, as you can see there. So they pasted the stereo sticker because over the mono original printing. Remember, this is 1967, 68, that period of time. So I probably got this in 68, where all of a sudden everybody wanted stereo. I prefer stereo. Mono early on, we're going to talk about that maybe in another video coming up. But this record, most of the band is the Wrecking Crew. Carol Kane on bass, Hal Blaine on drums. That's the rhythm section, and it's a killer rhythm section. There is this wild psychedelic electronic thing. Virgo, Leo, Capricorn. This is a guilty pleasure that is so freaking good. Now, about 5-6 years ago, there was a record store day glow-in-the-dark version, which I have, but the original copy. Now, I'm always a fan, of course, of the Elektra inner sleeve. I'm always a fan, of course, of this gold. If you can get any Elektra record, the Doors records, Love records with that label, that's the one you want. Celestial counterpoint with words and music. Now, what's great about this, I just think this is a wonderful record. And what it says here, must be played in the dark. So my teacher, my music teacher, Carolyn Schwartz, had to play this record in the dark for us 14-year-olds, for us 13 and 14-year-olds. And it's a fucking great record. I love this record. It's a record of its time, but it's a cool-ass record. It just, love it. Okay. So, after the summer, 1968 September, I get into high school. Remember, this is the time, man. I started having several, quote, hippie teachers. There was my first teacher crush, Gail Kelly, who was this hippie chick, long straight hair, really beautiful. I had a poetry class with her. I wrote this great poetry. I had crushes on her, but it was like psychedelic, avant-garde beat poetry I was trying to write. I wish I still had some of it. I might in a box somewhere. But the guy we found out later she was dating was the hippie Mike Calvello. Hey man, he was kind of like beatniky, kind of mid-hair, kind of cool ass. Like he was so chill. He was probably stoned, before and after class. But I loved having these teachers, and he was a great teacher. He was my English teacher. And on Fridays, what do you think he did? He turned the lights out, played a record, and what we'd have to do, this is the best part of it, we would feel an orange in the dark, a large piece of fruit. Feel an orange, listen to this music, and write about the experience. I wish I had an orange here, but just imagine an orange here. Let's get conceptual here. And there are 3 records. Now, he did it as every Friday, but I remember specifically these 3 records. I'm not sure why I remember these out of all the records he played, but I just remember Feel an Orange. Maybe sometime it was something else, but one particular time it was Feel an Orange. And write the experience of how you feel listening to this music. And we would write these essays, these creative writing classes. Loved it. It was great. It was a great creative input. Probably those of you in the rest of the country thought we were crazy, but I tell you, it inspired me so much, and it brought this creativity out in me. I mean, the music, obviously, I was listening to all along from the early Beatles days beyond. This was an important time in my life, a really important time at 14, 15 years old. And I remember the first one, at least in this case, he played was The Twain Shall Meet, Eric Burdon and the Animals. This is the period, of course, most of you know the Animals. The early Animals with Eric Burdon and Alan Price and Chaz Chandler on bass, who would, around this time, a little after this, discover and manage Jimi Hendrix. This was a different band with Eric Burdon leading. To me, Eric Burdon is one of the great blue-eyed soul singers, and he got really into the psychedelic scene, and part of it was him attending the Monterey Pop Festival down south of San Francisco in Monterey, that great festival in 1967. And of course, he writes a song that leads off here called Monterey. Down in Monterey, talks about Hugh Masekela, the airplane, the Dead, Prince, Brian Jones. What a great record about a moment in musical history. What a great song. Now, this is different than the bluesiness of the original Animals. This has a psychedelic overtone. This was the second album he did with the new Animals. And that, as good as that one is, I think this is the better of the two. Mike Calvello played this in class. And the song I remember him playing, he played the whole thing. But for some reason, I remember orange and red beams. Again, feel an orange and write the experience. Orange and red beams. I don't remember what I wrote. I don't. But this has not only Monterey, it has one of the greatest singles, A-side, B-side, an epic of a single called Sky Pilot, about this sort of World War I priest of, the Sky Pilot is the chaplain. Thou shalt not kill. What a great song with bagpipes and war sounds. And I remember getting the single initially, and it crossed over from half of it on side 1 to side 2. And when this came out of the album, I grabbed this. And I got this album, all these albums I got soon after this experience with my teachers turning out the light and listening to this music and experiencing this vortex around me. It was so amazing. Side 2 is only 3 tracks. Sky Pilot, We Love You, Lil, and All Is One. This is also produced by Tom Wilson, who worked on that Velvet Underground record with Andy Warhol. Because he was at MGM at this period. Did some jazz stuff too, which is great. But this is a fantastic record, and Mike Calvello turned out the lights and turned me onto this. I had obviously heard the single Monterey and then Sky Pilot, but I bought the album after this experience on Friday. And a freshman with the lights out. Are you being entertained? Now, he also played this record, and this record I have 2 copies. I have an original copy with, for some reason, I still have the price on here, Stax Rhythm and Blues, and with Shrink, and I just recently got a new album from Kraft, Bluesville edition, QRP, Bluesville, Analog Productions, and Kraft. But the album is Albert King Live Wire Blues Power. I remember Mike Cabello playing this again with the lights out. I don't remember feeling an orange here. Now this is recorded live at the Fillmore Auditorium, Bill Graham's Fillmore Auditorium. It opens up with a cover of Herbie Hancock's Watermelon Man, and it gets into Blues Power. And Blues Power is the song I remember on this. This to me is one of the best sort of Chicago electric blues albums in my collection. I adore this record. I fucking love this record. This is a record that every person who likes rock and blues needs in their collection. Now, Bill Graham was great because Bill Graham at the Fillmore and then Winterland also, but mostly the Fillmore West in the late 60s. And I believe this was recorded in 1968, and this was released in November of 1968, along with the next album, which you'll see, massive album, same month, around the same time. And I got these around exactly the same time. This is a kind of bluesy psych thing. Now, it's not a psychedelic record, but it's an electronic blues record. And Bill Graham would mix these blues artists and soul artists and R&B artists and Ravi Shankar and Miles Davis playing with the Grateful Dead and the Airplane and Quicksilver and all those great artists. This is a perfect electric blues record, and I advise anyone out there to pick this up. And now, as good as this is, and again, my It's the Music Stupid is really usually not about the sound of a record, but the new Bluesville, I guess this came out earlier this year or last year. There's a series that Kraft again and QRP and Analog Productions is putting out. Matt Luthen's mastered this. This is a little beefier than the original. If you have a clean original, great. But if you don't have this record, pick up this fucking Albert King Live Wire Blues Power record live at Bill Graham's Fillmore. It's an amazing record. This is a great pressing of it. I just adore this record. And Mike Calvello, my English teacher, creative writing teacher, would play this record. So he also played some soul music, some jazz music, as I recall. But these are the 5 records I picked between Carolyn Schwartz, In the Dark, Mike Calvello, Feelin' Orange. I don't remember Feelin' Orange to this, but I remember buying this. It's one of the first Chicago blues records I ever bought in 1968 as a 14-year-old. And I just adore this record. So I love that it came out. It's been reissued. It should stay in print. This was on Stax record originally, Kraft record. So, of course, with their version of an OB. Adore this record. And lastly, the same month, a record. Now, this record is a record that, it's the obvious record, and I almost shouldn't include it because I tried with these, It's the Music Stupid, show records from my collection that are more deep cuts and things. But what the hell? I'm going to show the White Album, the Beatles White Album that came out, towards the end of November 1968. My original copy, my original American numbered copy, still in beautiful shape, stereo. I don't think mono was even issued in the States. It came out in the UK. I recently got that top loader when I was in London last month. But Mike Calvello played this, but I needed to step back a few weeks because he didn't play the whole thing because obviously the class was less than an hour and this is like a 90-minute record. I don't exactly remember what he played, but I heard that KSAN Radio, the premier FM station in San Francisco that had been KMPX, the first FM underground rock station Tom Donahue started, the DJ, Big Daddy Tom Donahue from KYA started the first underground FM freeform radio. KMPX, there was a strike and they moved to KSAN. And I kept hearing that at one point, whatever the time was, they were going to play the entire White Album, the new Beatles record, from start to finish that November in 1968. So I had a portable tape recorder, and I remember setting it up at home with a timer, one of those like light timers. I don't remember exactly how I did it, but I had it on record. I pushed record, and I had it set up to record this entire album while I was in school. I didn't cut class. I was like a goody-goody, two-shoes little goody boy. I didn't cut class, but I taped this. So I must have had this record on tape about a week or two before it was released. And I kept playing that tape over and over again. Had a band then, a garage band, and we were playing at this dog show in a parking lot at a mall in San Francisco, a mall called Stonestown. And our band got a gig to play this like thing in the parking lot. And we rehearsed Birthday and Your Blues from that tape. And I remember being on stage that we're going to play songs from the upcoming Beatle album that's not out yet. And we played Birthday. Of course, we played the standard progression blues songs. They were the easiest to learn. You all know this record, of course. What can I say about that record? This great creative, conceptual cover art by Richard Hamilton, who was a modern artist, a conceptual modern artist in England at the time. Paul McCartney brought him into this. He created the poster. Now, some will say, what the fuck, man? It's just a white cover. I could have done that. Well, you didn't do that. I love this. I love how this became the White Album. Of course, it's really just called The Beatles. It's the boss there. It's called The Beatles. Double White Album. I love this record. Whenever I see a thread, it should have been a single record. It would have been better. Even Revolution Number 9. What a great album this is. What a great turning point this is. Well, Mike Calvello played part of this record. Again, I don't remember what he played, but I knew this record, and it was kind of exciting him to finally bring it in the end of November, playing this record. To me, this is, can you imagine these records in 1968, being a 14-year-old kid and having your high school and junior high school music teachers and English teachers turn off the lights on Friday and play this great music. I just love it. So that's a little kind of a little different thing. I want you to go home, listen to music, and feel an orange and experience the texture, the three-dimensional thing. Mazzy loves you.